All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. It looks like we're just on the top of the hour here, so we'll go ahead and get started. For those that have never attended one of my webinars, my name is Troy Daniels, the Technical Service Manager here at SimpliPhi, in charge of support and training and a few other things. So today we're going to be talking a little bit through use cases, just, what very basic high-level stuff. For those that maybe are not familiar, we're really trying to push as many webinars as we can during this time to, keep active and keep things moving along. So we've got a good, robust calendar of different trainings. So I definitely encourage anyone that's interested in some more trainings, check it out. We actually have one coming up on Wednesday. It's a basic general Q&A. So I'll be opening it up to questions. We've already received a lot of good questions in through email. Also, I'll have the Q&A open during the presentation to be able to answer questions. And we'll really be able to kind of get some unknowns answered and just try to keep it a little light and open on the forum. Again, so today we're going to be talking about use cases, really, what our SimpliPhi products can be used for, which products might be the best for those uses. Thank you for anyone that submitted. I know our marketing team had some good ideas to get some photos of animals submitted, try to lighten things up. So definitely thank you for all those that submitted. I will have the winner picked by our team coming up at the very end here. Some other just general housekeeping stuff before we jump in. If you are interested, if you're a solar installer, you've been using our batteries or even just want to get into using our batteries, we do have our SimpliPhi installer qualification program, not a requirement to install the batteries, but it'll land you a nice page, a nice little spot on our where to buy page, as well as some other cool stuff. So if you're interested in that, go check it out on our website. The application can be found there, and you can apply for that program. All right, let's hop right in. So I am going to kind of go a little bit on an overview here, nothing too crazy. I'm hoping most that are attending at least kind of have heard of us or gone through our products and things like that. Just an timeline here of the company itself. 2010, we actually were OES Energy. That's how we started. 2011 to 2012, some of our bigger contracts, including the military stuff. And from there, really a product line expansion. So beyond just batteries to a lot of all-in-one systems and some pretty cool stuff. 2015 to 2016, actually relaunched as SimpliPhi Power. And since then, we've just been ramping up manufacturing, distribution, and really making our batteries well known, as well as making sure they're in stock and available all over the place. Real quick, one thing I forgot. If you have any questions, there's a Q&A section that you can actually type into. Just go ahead and type those in as we go, and I'll be sure to answer them at the end. Okay, just real quick, if you're looking for a little bit about cost, I know, cash is kind of king, and no matter what we do, cost is everything. So this is really our LCOE calculator, basically an ROI specific to batteries, understanding what you get out of each kilowatt hour of the battery based on the warranty, the cycles warranty, the actual price, the capacity, the usable capacity, things like that. I won't go too deep into this. We actually have the LCOE calculator live on the website. So I just encourage, if you are looking at doing some cost comparison between batteries, use that LCOE calculator under our tools section. I just like to mention it every time. It's a really cool tool. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the products that we're going to be talking about today. Our main line, I would say, of all time is these two batteries here, the 2.9 kilowatt hour and the 3.8 kilowatt hour. They come in both 24 volt and 48 volts. These batteries are were designed as kind of drop-in lead acid replacements. They've definitely moved beyond that at this point. Can fit into all types of scenarios. They're scalable. They are only designed to be put into parallel. So if you have two 48-volt batteries, or sorry, if you have two 24-volt batteries, you wouldn't put them in series to create a 48-volt. They each come with an integrated circuit breaker and integrated battery management system. We'll also be talking about the 1.4. This comes in 12-volt and 24-volt. Basically, the same mechanics, integrated battery management system still, simple parallel connections. It is scalable, and it's just a little bit smaller. This is really good for some applications we're going to be talking about today. It does come with an Anderson connector, just beware. This can always be changed, I believe, but really, this Anderson connector is, I believe there was a reason that was put in and it stayed that way. For some pretty easy installations, especially if you're doing stuff with, forklifts or things like that. We're also going to be talking about our portable power line, or sometimes called the emergency kits as well. These are just things like the little Jenny and the big Jenny, all-in-one packages with LFP, lithium iron phosphate chemistry still, so it's safe, reliable, no chance of thermal runaway, just like all of our products, and has some pretty cool options like these fold-away solar panels. These come in 300 watts and 1200 watt hours. We'll also be talking about some of our, I hate this word, but plug-and-play solutions, our access units. We'll have some applications that this fits into. This is basically DC or AC coupled options. Currently, we have two offerings, either with the Solar converter or with the Schneider XW Pro inverter. These are NEMA 3, so they're outdoor ready, pre-wired, pre-programmed, all-in-one systems that we do offer. Very similar, the Express unit. This is an all-in-one unit as well. It's actually mobile, has wheels, but it's still NEMA 3R. This one's a bit different. It's more designed to be used without too much installation. So you can hardwire things into it if you wanted to, but really, it's got outlets for pulling power. It's got an inlet for charging, and it's even got a quick disconnect PV inlet if you wanted to charge from a solar array. So again, this unit is kind of designed to be able to charge your devices without any hard wiring in. You can roll this in and out of places pretty easily to get some charging going, as well as discharging. And we'll also be talking about some applications where a high voltage solution comes together. This is the only exception to the parallel rule. We have these modules that can be put in the series, 200 to 800 VDC nominal. This is really designed for things like large scale backup, 480 volt, three-phase, microgrids. The BMS is actually external. You can see here at the top, this is the stack controller. This unit specifically does have that Nuvation unit on it. That's the BMS brand, and it is external again with CAN bus, Modbus, Ethernet, and even monitoring built in for a battery level monitor for the system. And once you scale up in voltage, these units can actually be parallel to build up in storage. Okay, so let's jump right into these applications. Some kind of cool common applications. This is actually really kind of related. I wouldn't say these are specific applications as much as I think these tie really closely together with a certain section of applications, which might be grid-tied battery systems. That would be peak load shaving. So if you have high demands, this could also be true with CNI, I oftentimes see. So if you have a very, you're getting charged X amount above that peak, we need a battery that has a fast response time and can handle these heavy discharges. So definitely a battery can help mitigate those peak shaving or those peak demand charges by peak shaving. Time of use, or TOU, this is becoming more and more common. I know it started in California, but I'm seeing it all over the place now. And that's basically saying, if you're using more power, you're going to get charged a different amount of money during a certain time period. That's peak demand. This is when people are coming home from work, things like that. A battery can be a really good function. A solar and battery system can really help mitigate those costs. by discharging during those peak hours. And integrated solar plus storage, just in general, saving that PV production, using it in your own home, not just exporting it all to the grid, exporting the excess, but making sure you have a nice charged battery, and even being able to utilize your solar and your battery when the power goes out to ensure that your home stays lit up. Okay, so I'd say one of the biggest applications our products are still used for is residential off-grid. So why is our simplified lithium iron phosphate battery make sense for this situation? Well, it's long, reliable lifespan. Definitely gives it a really good edge. If you're building an off-grid system, you don't want to be replacing batteries every 5-10 years. You want to make sure you've got a long-lasting battery that can really handle, the entire home's power supply. C/2, this is our discharge or charge rate. This is great for off-grid. Maybe charging-wise, if you need to get a fast charge going, you can have a pretty hefty PV array and really charge that battery up in 2 hours if needed with the correct PV sizing to ensure that you're always getting a full charge going into the night, as well as covering some greater demand loads. So if you do have some things like well pumps or various loads like that in an off-grid system, these batteries can handle, actually this specific battery can handle 60 amps at 10 minutes per battery. So meaning that every time you add a battery, you're getting 60 more amps at 10 minutes. So really, it can cover these heavy loads. A lot of people don't think about it when they're going off-grid that there are going to be some pretty hefty surges when it comes to off-grid power, especially if you have a well, septic, things like that, and even heaters and air conditioners. The battery has a fairly small footprint, which is great when we're building off-grid. We might have limited space to actually build out the system. No chance of thermal runaway. This is your home. This is where the battery is sitting. We don't want to see a fire caused by the battery's thermal runaway. We don't have that issue with the lithium iron phosphate battery, so it is safe to be in the house. And frankly, we warranty for off-grid, and we do not require any sort of monitoring as a lot of other companies do. So, there's definitely a lot of batteries out there you're just not going to find that are truly warranted for off-grid systems, but we do. Okay, so in the far left corner here, this little box here, you'll see that throughout the presentation. This is basically just what I would deem what makes sense the most as a product for the specific application. So for residential off-grid, 12-volt batteries, 24-volt batteries, 48-volt, those standard ones are great. You could use our express unit off-grid. That one I would say is not, I have 12, 24, and 48 highlighted as these kind of piecemealed systems make the most sense. The express unit could be used off-grid, but again, I wouldn't say that's probably the best option. And even the access unit can be used off-grid. And it is warranted off-grid as well, but it is kind of a one-size-fits-all. Oftentimes when you're off-grid, you want to really make sure you're doing load calcs and designing the system a bit more custom to fit that energy need. Huge application for us, lead acid replacement still. Huge benefits here beyond just longer lifespan, a greater return on investment, or LCOE as we talked about earlier. There's a lower installation cost when it comes to these batteries. They're easy to move. They tend to not be as heavy. They can be wall mounted. You have a way greater power capabilities compared to the lead acid. We talked about C/2 or even that 60 amp surge. Our lithium batteries are going to have way more available power and energy typically. We're talking depth of discharge. Lead acid batteries typically are around 50% maximum. We can use these batteries 80 to 100%. If it's a off-grid system, I typically say 80%. If it's a backup, you could go a little bit lower than that. There's no venting, off-gassing, or watering requirements. So it's non-toxic. It's cleaner than when you have those lead acid batteries in place. and a lot smaller of a footprint. 4 of these batteries might equal 24 lead acid batteries in some cases. So you're definitely saving a lot of space, a lot of trouble with, battery boxes and things like that. Really, as far as lead acid replacement goes, 12 volt, 24 volt, or 48 volt, just depends on the lead acids you're replacing and the power electronics in the system. Also, by the way, if you see any pictures that might be yours as an installer, let me know. I always like to know when I see someone's picture that was used in the presentation. Okay, residential hybrid systems. Not a lot of people talk about these. We're talking about DC coupled grid-tied systems. Why is this a really good way to go? Frankly, I see somebody raise their hands. You can go ahead and I'm going to put your hand down there. If you don't mind, just type any questions into the Q&A section. Okay, let me just go ahead and do that, or else it'll just keep popping up on my screen. Okay. So why is this a good way to go? Dynamic charging. We'll talk a little bit about, okay guys, hey, I see another hand raised there. Again, if you don't mind, please just go ahead and type any questions into the Q&A. Okay. So, we'll talk about AC coupling here in a little bit, but when we're DC coupling, there's definitely a charge controller has a way to charge the battery that's a lot more fluid and dynamic. Leaves less chance for error. You can have more PV on the system. I tend to just, not to take too much of a bias here, but think that, charge controller charging, so DC charging, DC coupled, is much more efficient than AC coupled. And, you still maintain these functions when you're in a hybrid situation, selling, time of use, backup. It's huge when it comes to, these are still functions that you get to keep. You can sell off excess PV, charge the battery very dynamically. When a grid goes down, it's basically like nothing has happened. So in an AC coupled situation, there is a shift when it happens. When the grid goes down, the way the solar is functioning is often going to be a lot different. In this case, it might disconnect from the grid, but it's still functioning the same way as far as the charging goes. It's very seamless that way. And, as far as the longevity and reliability of our specific batteries, this definitely helps with some pretty cool functions. I've even seen these, hybrid systems used for grid zero, where there's no grid use whatsoever, because the battery can last for so long. As far as, DC coupled grid tied systems, 24 volt or 48 volts, I don't know of any 12 volt inverters that can be grid interactive. So really, if you're going hybrid, it's going to have to be 24, and more than likely 48 is the better way to go. Our express unit, we do have one that's grid interactive. I would say, I might even actually annex that from this box here. I would say don't use the express for a hybrid system as much. And the access solution. If you go with the DC coupled model of either access, if it's the solar, it comes DC coupled or AC coupled no matter which way you order it. The Schneider has to have that optional charge controller added, but it can still be a hybrid system, DC coupled. On to AC coupling. So, as far as AC coupling goes, there's no denying it's a really easy solution when you've got, let's say, micro inverters or string inverter. Maybe, you already have a grid-tied existing array. It's really easy just to go ahead and add an AC coupled solution in. You're adding a battery-based inverter, batteries, critical loads panel, and you have the function to not only discharge when the grid goes down, as well as utilize the battery for things like TOU, cell, backup, but you can also bring the PV back online in these situations with these AC coupled designs. So really cool function, get some charging and battery backup to a home. Again, you're just adding to an existing grid-tied array, so it makes a lot of sense. Our low self-discharge rate actually helps kind of keep the battery nice and charged. For when that grid goes down, you want a full battery. And we can, again, cover some high power demand loads. So, maybe if customer only wants to back up a few hours worth of stuff, we can definitely cover some of the higher demand stuff that way. As far as what products are usable for this, Access, our Access solution, either one of the Schneider or the Solarc can be AC coupled. It's pre-wired for that if you order it that way, and it's ready to go right out of the box. So really all you're doing is adding on the critical loads panel, connecting the batteries, and running a few AC cables. So definitely an easy solution that way. 48-volt battery, of course. I don't know of any 24-volt. The reason that 24-volt or 12-volt's not on there, I don't really know of any 24-volt inverters that are truly AC coupled compatible. Maybe there is, maybe I'm wrong, but definitely you want to go with, if you're piecemealing the system, you're putting your own inverter, your own battery in for an AC coupled solution. Typically, it's going to be a 48-volt inverter. Storage without renewable generation. This is always an option on the residential side. You're charging from an AC source, such as a grid or even a generator that might be present on site, just really set for backup only. Again, that low self-discharge rate can come in handy here as we, maintain, if the battery's charged from the grid and left in the garage for a while, it's going to keep that really high state of charge for when that grid goes down, whether it's, 1 month or 6 months from now. The discharge rate is actually less than 1% per month. So you're still going to maintain a really good charge in that battery. We can utilize so many different charging sources through most of our different products and even some of our all-in-one stuff. And again, those higher power demands can be met through our C/2 rate discharge. Okay, so as far as what products make sense, 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt, sure. Even the Access solution I've seen used without a renewable source. But really the kind of products that shine in this situation, most of all, is the Express unit. Again, this is a pretty large unit. The bigger one comes at 7.6 kilowatt hours. So it can easily be charged from the grid, charged up, stored away, maybe stored in the garage, wherever you want it to be stored. And then you can start plugging loads directly into this unit when the grid goes down. So this is definitely a really good situation to be able to use that without renewable generation and just to be able to charge up that backup for when you need it. The mobile product lines, such as the Little Jenny and the Big Jenny, those also make a lot of sense for some, they're definitely a lot smaller. We're talking about like 1.4 kilowatt hours. So you're not going to be backing up big loads, but you might be able to charge a cell phone, laptop. You might even be able to run your fridge off the bigger Jenny if you really need to keep that alive. Okay. Just FYI, everyone, I know the presentation said hour and a half. We're just kind of putting that in all presentations. This one likely will not go even close to an hour and a half here, but we'll have plenty of time for Q&A so we can answer all questions. Okay, C&I high voltage. So again, utilizing our high voltage product, this is the only product that we have that can fit into this category. We're talking about stuff that has AC requirements, such as 40 volt three-phase. That's where this is really going to make sense, is what the AC requirements are. Or if you need the need for a higher AC output than 48 volt inverters can handle. And what I mean by that is when you parallel 48 volt inverters, there's going to be a limit. So if you need 100 kilowatts of output on the AC side, you're probably going to have to step it up to the higher voltage products, a higher voltage inverter that can handle that kind of output. As far as these C&I stuff goes, commercial industrial projects, longer lifespan, ROI is key on these projects. These tend to be for, stores, big customers, different things like that. They're going to want to see the return on investment, understanding that it takes time, but you really need to have a long lifespan on the battery to ensure that that ROI is met. 10-year standard warranty. Again, those higher demand loads, especially if you're looking at like C&I that might have peak load shaving, things like that. It's a huge one that I've seen. Maybe let's say a grocery store approaches you as an installer. You're looking to back up a 40 volt three-phase panel as well as cover peak load demand or even TOU. if that applies for the commercial side of things. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. This battery can be kind of utilized in various ways like that. Multiple different uses on one system to kind of value add to the product. Some really high level integration with these products. So we're talking really intuitive monitoring, control, can really help. You know, if you're, let's say in California, you're looking at stuff like SGIP program, they require some really high level monitoring for that program. So, you know, this is the way to go. And probably the biggest advantage to specifically our lithium iron phosphate high voltage products is we do not have a need for liquid coolant systems. Now we might have some kind of HVAC in the system depending on where it's located, but there's no need for those liquid coolant systems that you see with the cobalt-based high voltage batteries, the lithium cobalt-based batteries. This just takes away that point of failure, takes away the cost, the maintenance, things like that, right out of that section. Now, C&I can also be, we can utilize the 48 volt product. I guess technically you could even use 24 volt, but 48 volt inverters, if you can hit that power demand that you're looking for that C&I project, a commercial industrial project, such as this one, the airport hangar, our 48 volt product can be scaled. Basically, there's no limits. As far as warranty or things like that go, we do not have a limit on how many 48 volt batteries can be put into parallel. So if you have the power requirements out of these 48 volt systems, go with the 48 volt. You might want to use something like this. You can see they're wiring with bus bars or maybe large battery combiners. But again, we've seen a lot of C&I stuff done with our 48 volt batteries due to how much we can actually scale those batteries. Telecom, this is a bit more niche, but I really like to talk about telecom. If you're off-grid, you're grid-tied, whatever you're doing in the telecom, DC to DC, it seems to be the way that most of these systems go, so no inverter whatsoever. If that's the case, these are great solutions. The voltage of a lithium iron phosphate battery tends to line up very nicely with DC equipment, whether that's kind of charging or discharging. So they really make sense when it comes to telecom systems. They're very small as well. Oftentimes with telecom sites, you're given as an installer a very small footprint to work within to make sure that you can ensure the right amount of energy and power is met still. So this really helps. This smaller footprint really kind of helps make that an easy job with lots of room to work with. Temperature-wise, 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I see a lot of outdoor telecom sites in the heat, even in the cold. And no ventilation requirements. This is a huge one. We can put in these tight boxes, and no clearance requirements or anything like that. So definitely it can fit in some tight spaces, and even oftentimes if it's rated for it, outdoor areas. As far as products to use, 12, 24, and 48 is going to be probably make the most sense as far as telecom goes. Most of the time, these will have inverters, chargers, things like that already on site. So that tends to be the way I lean towards that. Express and access might make sense, but I would say more than likely it's going to be the 12, 24, 48 volts. And I believe the last one here, we'll talk about Microgrid Solutions. Why does this product make sense? When I say this product, I mean 48 volt or high voltage. Again, if we want to scale up 48 volts, even for a microgrid solution, it's very possible. High voltage, oftentimes I see as one of the kind of big ones used on microgrid solutions. These are community powers oftentimes. We need reliability. We need a long lifespan of the battery. We're going to have some really high demand loads on a large scale that can really be met by our scaling batteries. And the ability for our batteries to utilize all generation source makes a ton of sense in this application, as we really need to be able to utilize things like wind, hydro, the grid, generators, maybe even turbine generators, things like that. So again, that can fit in either the 48 volt product or the high voltage, but I would say more than often I see the high voltage as the solution for microgrids. This is actually, this is a picture of what you might see if you ordered a high voltage in the container, all ready to go inside of it already. Okay, I know that was, we got one more, my apologies. Mobile power and emergency power too. We have a ton of products for this. We can fit all needs here. This appears to be the Big Jenny here. Oops, sorry about that. We got a little sneak peek of the animals there. The Big Jenny here is a great tool when it comes to portable power or even emergency power situations. We've got tons of deployments with huge organizations. I believe some stuff like the Red Cross and some other direct relief, things like that, working with these corporations or with these different emergency response people to make sure that we've deployed all over the place with these products. So we've got a kind of proven track record here. The batteries are mobile. There really is not a problem with moving them around. Small footprint again, light, easy to move. And again, non-toxic, which is super important oftentimes, whether it's mobile or emergency power. I would say pretty much every product we have is going to be good for one of these, whether it's mobile power or emergency power. I would say as far as emergency goes though, Express Unit or our mobile product line is going to make sense the most. Access is always good for emergency though, as well as any of our other batteries. If you're looking at some kind of emergency response or anything like that, definitely get in touch with us directly. We can talk through, what's best, but that is something that we are heavily involved in and do a lot of work within. Okay, thanks again for everyone that submitted their animals. Actually, these two are mine, though I'm not in the contest. Also, this one is one of our employees with our little SimpliPhi hat there. Some really good animals. I did not vote in the end. I just let our team vote and pick the winner. The winner, though, is Mr. Ramirez. They liked the way every dog was smiling was the consensus. So we'll be sending you I believe it's a Patagonia fleece with our logo on it. I'm sure our marketing team will reach out to you. Thank you everyone though again for submitting your pictures. Just to go back, some really great animals, kind of brighten up the day here with the fun shutdown situation. It's always good to see. So we'll be sending you some information here with some shipping stuff. I believe, and don't shoot the messenger here if it's wrong, but I think we are going to go ahead and try to send everyone a little goodie package, not the fleece by any means, but that submitted an animal for the contest. So we do appreciate that. Okay, let me go ahead and pop the Q&A open. If you have questions, now's a good time to throw it in that Q&A, and we will just go through all of these questions. Do you have the UL9540A certification for the access inverters and batteries? Batteries, I believe we're just on the end of it right now. We got our results back. So I'm not actually 100% sure where we're at with that. Send me a separate email. You can actually see the training email there. Go ahead and just send it to that training email, training@simpliphipower.com, and I'll get you in touch with the people that are working directly on that to make sure that UL9540A, where it's at and what's going on. Can your product work with grid-tied AC solar microinverters? Yeah, I think that was probably asked a little bit before we went over those slides, but again, the access unit specifically, if you're looking for an all-in-one product, is really easy to AC couple. As far as the batteries go, they don't care where the power is coming from as long as you have the right components, like a battery-based inverter in between those. Are you guys working or do you have a 208 volt three-phase solution? We're never going to build an all-in-one solution to fit that need. Again, the batteries don't care what's going on the AC side. So if you have 208 three-phase solution that you need to cover, I would just recommend taking 3 inverters that can be put into three-phase. If you're actually looking to Solarc, some of those inverters do have the ability to go 208 three-phase without needing to gang or parallel inverters. But like if you're looking at like the Schneider XW Pro or the Outback VFXR, those can just be put three of those can be put together to get that 208 three-phase. Now again, the batteries are just connected there, so they don't care what they're seeing. DC side's still fine. Is there an idle draw on the packs? If so, what is it? I'm not sure I think you're probably talking about emergency or the power packs. As long as they're not turned on, there shouldn't be, this self-discharge rate may be a little bit less than 1% per month, but if they're not turned on, you shouldn't see an idle draw. As far as idle draw on the inverter, if it's not plugged into the grid, there should be, I don't think it would even be noticeable. Do you have an AC coupled solution of Solarc with your batteries? Yeah, that's actually the Solarc Access. Can be DC coupled or AC coupled. It has both those options built into that one. So check that out. That's actually our Solarc Access unit that's ready to go. Are there any elevation and cold temperature rating limitations? Cold temperature would be 30 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Elevation, we've seen some pretty high stuff. I mean, 10,000, 12,000 feet. So far, we don't have specific data on it, but we can say for sure, as far as science goes, high voltage is not good in elevations. You're going to see a lot of arching, a lot of sparks, things like that. Due to the insulation of the air, you're going to have some issues. With the 48 volt product, those issues do not exist. So if you've got a specific system, you're looking to do that's maybe, let's say, over 12,000 feet, let us know and we can just double check. What are the lead times for the Access and Express? Well, to be honest, lead times are a bit odd now just due to we were shut down for a little bit there, and just, demand is pretty high right now. As far as batteries and things like that go, they're mostly in stock. Every distributor that we have should have them in stock for our standard batteries. Express units, I'm sure there's a few in stock somewhere. And typically the Access and the Express, the longest lead time I used to see at least is 2 weeks. If that's changed a little bit due to COVID-19 and some kind of shifts in who's working and who's not working, I do apologize, but typically it's been about 2 weeks is the longest lead time I've seen on an Access or an Express unit. Oh, in other words, when the BMS is active, does it discharge or draw power from the battery? I mean, a little bit. It's so minimal though that it would actually, it relates to that 1%. It's still below the 1%. I mean, it's very efficient, so you wouldn't even notice it above that idle 1% discharge. All right, looks like that's all the questions. If there's no more, I will hop off now. If you have any projects or anything you're looking to work with, go ahead and email training@SimpliPhiPower.com. I'll pass you along to our sales team and get one of our application engineers to help you out. If you have any questions about trainings upcoming, you can always contact me. And if you have any questions whatsoever about our IQ program or our installer qualification program, again, not a requirement to install our products, but an added benefit, contact me as well at that training at SimpliPhiPower.com. Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone hopping on. Again, I really appreciate everyone that submitted animal pictures, and I hope everyone has possibly time to join our general Q&A session on this Wednesday. Thank you so much, everyone.